Hello, my brilliant scientists. I miss you all. Welcome to Virtual Learning Week. Before we get started talking about what the Cambrian period, which is what I want to talk about this week, I would like to talk to you about something very significant that happened within the science community this week. And you might know that there was a very large volcanic explosion that happened in Tonga on Saturday. Here is a satellite image of this. Okay, that might not seem too huge to you, but this is a satellite image. And so maybe that will give you some perspective as to just how large this explosion was. It could be heard about 5,000 miles away. It triggered a tsunami warning for everywhere from like San Francisco and Japan, all the way across the Pacific Rim. So here's that image again, that satellite image. So Tonga, we're talking about a little bit east of Australia, right here. And here is that image. Here's the before and after. Look at how huge this is, you guys. Okay, it ended up causing a volcanic crater. Water filled in over the top of it after this explosion. And shock waves could be felt all around the globe. Okay, this is in Fiji, so this is quite far away. You ready? Let's listen to this. Isn't that crazy how loud that is? Okay, and so then the waves spread, of course, all the way around our ring of fire here. This is right at the middle of a plate boundary. This is a subduction zone. Remember, you've got two plates meeting, one going underneath the other. Volcanoes happen. So anyway, I thought that was super cool that was right when we've been talking about plate tectonics. But this week, we've been talking about the geologic time scale, and I didn't want to jump into our next unit, so I thought that we would spend a little bit of time talking about one of the coolest periods in the Earth's history. It's called the Cambrian period. And there's an event that happened during this time called the Cambrian explosion, where life went from single-celled, very simple creatures that had existed for billions of years, right down here in our Proterozoic time frame. And right here, we're looking at the Cambrian. So this marks the beginning of the Paleozoic era. Okay, so the Cambrian period right here. Now, this is a relatively short time period in geologic history. But when we say that, we're also talking about 40 million years because geologic time is different than people time. So 40 million years is still, I mean, that's a long time. But geologically speaking, it's quite short. So this time period right here. And what we see is that all of a sudden in the fossil record, we see these single-celled, multicellular, very small, little tiny things all of a sudden become bigger and more complex. And it's almost as if life was trying to figure out what life should look like. And so you see these crazy life forms that literally look like they were made up by some kind of sci-fi artist because they just look too weird to be real. But lots of them are the ancestors of some of the organisms that we still have in the world today. So I want to show you a couple of these and just how crazy they are. This one, hallucigenia, literally named after a hallucination. People weren't quite sure if it walked on the spiny end or on this end, but they figured out that this is what it looked like. Yeah, that's a real thing that has lived on the Earth. This one, Anomalocaris. It looks like a Muppet. Look at that. Fun fact, I've got a nephew who is obsessed with anything prehistoric life. He loves dinosaurs. He loves pterosaurs, all of these kinds of things. And so for Christmas, he's 4, he asked for Cambrian sea creatures. Like literally, that's what I just bought him for Christmas. And so I got him a stuffed animal of an Anomalocaris. Okay. And you can actually see fossils of these. You can see examples of these fossils. They are crazy looking things. Okay, where is my, there we go. Anomalocaris, kind of like a little shrimp. This one's called a Morella. It's a pretty common fossil. There's this area in the Western Canadian Rockies that is called the Burgess Shale. And essentially what happened is there was this huge mudslide in the ocean that buried a lot of these shallow water sea creatures very, very quickly, which is of course ideal conditions for fossils to form. And so not only do you have the hard parts fossilized, but in the Burgess Shale, we can actually see some of the soft parts of their bodies fossilized because of the conditions. And so we have this huge variety that we can see in the Burgess Shale. This one right here is called Wawaxia. It's a little bit spiny. It's got these plates on it. This one's called Opabinia. Look at that long snout. See what I mean about how life is just kind of like trying on different forms? This one is the Isoxus. Now, these are all living in the ocean. We don't have land life yet. This is all underwater. Heliocystus, look at that cool spiral shell. Canadapsis, kind of slug-like. This one's called the Waptia. Temescularis. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one. So what I would like you to do this week is when you are finished with this video, I would like you to please take a minute and watch the other one that I have linked, which is talking about why the Cambrian explosion is just so significant. This is a PBS video. And after that, you get to create your own example of a Cambrian creature. And so what I mean by that is you get to look through some of these different lists. I've got some different links or YouTube videos that you could look at to find a Cambrian creature that you think is cool, and then you're going to build it. So you could do this with Play-Doh. You could do this with clay. You could do this with Rice Krispie treats. You could do this in Minecraft. You could do this with Legos. You could do this with yarn, craft supplies. You could do it with snow if you happen to have snow where you are. There's a lot of different ways that you could sculpt or create your model of a Cambrian creature. So I want you to write down what your organism's name is, okay? So you've got to figure out what it is and tell me when it lived, how long ago, and how did it move? And then you're going to take a picture and submit it right here in Infinite Campus. And I'm excited to see the kinds of things that you are going to create. The Cambrian time period is significant because we see so many different life forms emerging in a relatively short amount of time. And it showed the wonderful diversity that was going to be possible upon the Earth. And many of these are ancestors of current things that we have living, including chordates, meaning things with a spinal cord, which, yes, that's you and me. We are things with a spinal cord. So the ancestors of things with a spinal cord came about during this Cambrian period. I am going to be available this week. Every day I will have office hours from 10 to 11. You can hop in on Teams. You can ask me questions. You can message me in Teams. You can send me an email, and I will do whatever I can to get back to you, to meet with you, to check in with you and see how you're doing. We will just be online for a couple of days. We will be back together again next week. Hopefully everybody will be safe and healthy, and I will see you guys soon.